Wuthering Waves is almost here, and there's been multiple debates and topics on a lot of things around the community. But there's been one interesting controversial debate in the community as of recent, and that is tier list in the game and what characters you should prioritize getting or who is the best in game. But I have a slight issue with this drama, and I'm here to discuss my concerns, and hopefully you guys be able to be careful about any tier list that has currently been made before the game release. Now before this video starts, I do want to say I am no hardcore gamer, and I barely know much of Wuthering Waves myself. Everything I would say in this video is more like the obvious when you're looking at tier lists in the game and other different perspectives of them, and just don't take characters at base kit because they could sound good on paper, but when you try them in game it could be a completely different story. There is this one Reddit post that has gotten a pretty popular among the platforms and other content creators making videos on it as well, and it's this priority tier list that was made on Reddit that we'll be talking about in this video as well. This tier list was made for free-to-play players, and the author of this post made sure to say that the reader reading this understood that this is a personal take and his opinion on the tier list. I do see where the author is trying to come from this tier list. However, I do have to disagree with some of the takes and how this tier list is structured on the post, and I got my reasons. Sure, you may have seen 1010 video about theory crafting and tier list mix, but reminder, both of them have yet to fully dive into the depth of how each character at the moment benefit to in-game content right now for Wuthering Waves. 1010 throughout his whole entire video only described more in depth and detail about how big of a difference Jajin is, and the Redditor only describes so little of what made Jajin a perfect character to prioritize and only mentions their kit instead of things like in-game content and such, which any character on paper could sound great of course until you try them in-game. Now to be fair, 1010 also only described why theory crafting doesn't work in the game, and with the game not being out just yet, it is not his fault that he can't really do a proper discussion on which characters are valuable and worth going for when it comes to certain situations. I think everybody should try to start basing their tier list off of these things here, and this is my personal opinion as well. What is the difference between using this character in the open world and any in-game related content? How valuable this character really is to each character in the roster list? Will their value go down with certain characters? How often can I be able to pull off their kit? And is it fast enough for team rotations like in a game like Wuthering Waves? And the list go on. And then we can start to slowly see how it could become an issue even as a free-to-play, or well, if you're not careful at viewing what characters you really want to try to go for in Wuthering Waves. Now if you're a casual player, this video probably is not meant for you since the beginning of watching, and feel free to play whoever. Long as you don't have an issue with dodging or parrying in the game, you may just be fine being able to use whoever in the game. Fun over meta, that is something I live by. But back on track, let's talk about Danjin for a second. I would imagine somebody like her could be a pain to play. I used to main Hu Tao back in Genshin Impact for sure, so for a 4-star character she may deal a great amount of damage and amazing damage if so, but what if we take her into in-game content and left her solo, or left her alone solo while exploring the world? Then her gameplay risk value increases. Without a sustainer or somebody that could shield her probably, or even a healer or support, of course, she runs the risk of dying too quickly if you're not good enough with dodging or parrying in the game. Then we have to take this into account. You're not ready to solo Wuthering Waves with just one character just yet, and then somebody like Danjin would just be a low value character for you because you're not good with dodging or parrying in game. But if you have no issues with dodging nor parrying in the game, then of course somebody like her will be a great and amazing unit just for you. But just a reminder, while somebody like Danjin could be high in tier, she may struggle in in-game content like the tower in Wuthering Waves. My other problem, like I mentioned earlier in this video, they didn't include how valuable each and every character is to a team. So now you're looking at this tier list and okay, I don't know, somebody like Encore is S tier, right? And then we take Yilin, who is also S tier. So since two of those are your favorite characters, you try to throw them on a team together, but because the author didn't go over fully on what character kit best goes with certain team compositions or team comp, you run the risk of realizing that maybe Encore doesn't get her full potential from Yilin, but could get that full potential for somebody else. Now, I was just saying that as an example. I don't know entirely if those two could go together entirely, and only time will tell after the game release, of course. Lastly, the game will more than likely be changing a lot of characters' kit. maybe it won't be a huge of a change, but for the time being, trying to rely on a tier list at the moment this early is kind of a huge problem. If a character do get a major rework or a character that worked differently from how they once did back in the beta test, this can be a problem if you're a meta player that is trying to go for the best character in the game once the game has released. Now, am I saying tier lists shouldn't exist in Wuthering Waves? No, if that's how you imagine what I was talking about throughout this whole entire video when I started saying multiple ways we could start basing characters in for their value in WUWA, then I don't know what to tell you. But what I am saying, in short, the game isn't out just yet, so don't try to take every tier list that you see seriously unless it's really informal, but take a lot of it with a grain of salt. Don't try to rely on characters that sound good on paper, but when it comes to team building, that it suddenly becomes an issue. Sadly enough, this game isn't like Genshin, so you will need to be more careful about how you go about choosing what characters you do want to play and what teams you're building, especially for in-game content, as some characters, depending on what you're doing, may not entirely be as valuable as they are in other parts of content for Wuthering Waves. That summarizes just about everything. If you are a free-to-play and you're just a casual gamer who don't care about any of this, and you're probably going to choose whoever that seems the coolest to you or seems the most interesting to you, then like I said earlier in this video wasn't meant for you and you have no worries at all. Long as you practice on your dodging and parrying, of course you may be fine when the game releases, who knows. But if you guys happen to disagree with any of my takes, feel free to just let me know down in the comment. Shoot, even dislike the video if it did make you mad. I'm all ears and willing to listen. Now, of course, like I said earlier, I'm no hardcore gamer myself. I barely know much about Wuthering Waves at the moment, but I do feel like it should be obvious that if you're trying to take the game serious, that you need to look at everything in other perspectives, especially when it comes to tier lists. I had my fun yapping. If you guys did enjoy this video, sub to the channel with bell notification on and come join my Discord server as well. We just surpassed 500 members as of recent. Anyways, if you guys want to plan early, go check out my day one strategy plan for Wuthering Waves, and I'll see you guys in another video soon.